Small incremental changes lead to astounding results. Oftentimes, what determines the success or failure of an individual in life is not what they do once in the month or every now and then. It's what they do every single day that leads to everlasting change and success. But how do we build these atomic habits in the first place? It's simple. We follow the 4 rules of behavior change. What is up, YouTube? My name is Aidan Helfant. I am an upcoming freshman Cornell University student who makes videos on all sorts of things. Today we're going to be talking about quite possibly the greatest book on habits I have ever read. Atomic Habits by James Clear is a book on identity change. It teaches how to change habits effectively so that we can accomplish our greatest hopes and dreams. Many people believe that changing a habit is hard, and it is.
Holy moly!
But not nearly as hard as we think. In this video, we're going to talk about the 4 cardinal rules of behavior change so that you too can become the person you always wanted to be. Before we begin, however, I want to highlight just how important the math behind habit change is in the first place. If you get 1% better every single day for a year, you will be 37.78% better at whatever it is you started with by the end of the year. Conversely, if you get 1% worse at something every single day, you will be at 3% the level you were at before. Let that sink in. The first rule of behavior change is to make your good habits obvious and your bad habits invisible. Think about why so many people are stuck to their seats for 3 hours a day scrolling through Instagram. We keep our phones with us all the time. We bring it to school with us throughout the day and have it next to our beds before we go to sleep. Every habit starts with a cue that leads to us doing the habit in the first place. When we see the social media notification on our phones, or even just our phones themselves, we are instantly compelled to pick up and start scrolling. So how do we take this into our advantage? We make the cues of our good habits obvious. Say we want to start a habit of drinking water. Well, we could just go through our day like normal and hope that the simple fact we promised ourselves we would drink more water will lead to the outcome. That is not working smart. What if we made an effort to set out empty glasses throughout the house? What if we brought a water bottle with us that tracked the amount of fluid we intake throughout the day? The cue to drink more water would be with us everywhere we went, and we wouldn't have to rely on our brains to remember to drink more. Similarly, if we want to get rid of bad habits, we should make them invisible. When you go to bed at night, how about trying to set your phone across the room, or even better, in a different room entirely? This way, if you wanted to get your phone and scroll through social media, you would have to manually get up and make the walk of shame wherever you stored it. The second law of behavior change is to make good habits attractive and bad habits unattractive. Oftentimes, the anticipation of reward itself gets us to take action. Habits are dopamine-driven feedback loops. When dopamine rises, so does our motivation to act. The greater the anticipation, the greater the dopamine strike. A lot of the time, the reason we can't stick with our good habits is because we don't find them attractive enough in the moment to provoke action. For most people, going to the gym is unattractive because they know they will feel a lot of pain for the next hour. The results of going to the gym, however, only show themselves weeks or months after a successful habit is built. One effective way to make a habit more attractive is to do a strategy called temptation bundling. This is where we take something that we know we like and pair it with a habit we know will be unattractive in the present. After we go to the gym, for example, we could treat ourselves to a chocolate bar or episode from one of our favorite television shows. This will teach us to associate going to the gym not only with pain and suffering, but with getting to sit down and eat some delicious food or watching television. Conversely, breaking bad habits can be done by making them unattractive. One easy way to do this is making negatives of that habit extremely obvious. Say we had a terrible problem with cramming for our exams minutes before actually taking them. If we wanted to break the habit of procrastination, we could set an accountability partner with our mom or dad. We tell them that if we don't complete at least this many practice tests or this many hours of studying for the day, we'll pay them $100 of our hard-earned money. They can spend this money however they choose. The negatives of not studying are made extremely obvious when this is done. We lose $100 of our money, and it is honestly amazing how much more likely we are to do something when money is on the line. The third law of behavior change is to make it easy for good habits and make it hard for bad ones. Reduce the friction in the environment of doing good habits and increase the friction of bad ones. To go back to the water example, by priming our environment with empty glasses of water, we make it very easy to drink more. All we have to do is take the glass already set out and fill it with that life-giving fluid. We can do this with other things as well. Take recording this YouTube video, for example. If I had not set out the camera equipment and recording gear beforehand, I would have found it much harder to get myself to sit down and record 3 videos in a row. When everything is out a few hours beforehand, however, it becomes so easy to convince myself to sit down, it's not even funny. Breaking bad habits can be done by simply inverting this philosophy. Say you want to break a bad habit of eating junk food. Oftentimes, the biggest reason people eat fast food and trash is because it's so easy to open the cupboard and grab the cookie jar. What if there was just no junk food in the first place? What if you emptied your cupboards of cookies and chocolate? It is infinitely easier to avoid eating bad food when it isn't in the house in the first place. Think about it. Now we want to go and eat some fast food, we'll have to manually drive to the store or go to the drive-thru and get it ourselves. It might seem like a small difference, but it is truly eye-opening how big of a distinction it is. The fourth law of behavior change is to make it satisfying for good habits and unsatisfying for bad ones. To get a habit to stick, a feeling of immediate success makes it vastly easier. It has to be just big enough to be noticeable. One great way to do this is to use habit trackers. Habit trackers make the doing of our habits infinitely more satisfying. When we go to the gym or go on a run, we mark it down and try to keep the trend going for as long as we can. Oftentimes, the feeling of progress brought about by tracking habits like this is enough for us to keep them in the long run. This act of tracking also makes it easier to see when we have started to fall off the wagon. Never miss twice. Missing once is a mistake. Missing twice is the beginning of another habit. One important thing to mention, however, is that habit tracking is not useful in all situations. It should only be used for the most difficult and hard to keep habits. This is because when people become too entranced with the act of tracking the habit itself, they forget to do the habit effectively in the first place. Since the act of tracking the habit is what brings them joy, the habit itself gets just left to the wayside. Once again, to break bad habits, we can simply make them unsatisfying. One great way to do this is to set an accountability partner like said before. We care deeply about what others think of us, and if we fail to build our good habits or break our bad ones, we could be judged by society, something that is very unsatisfying. If you want to start a habit of uploading 2 videos a week, try and get someone to join in on your adventures. This way you can keep each other in check. If you ever miss an upload, they will know, and you will be judged for it. The simple fact that you know that someone is watching can spur great motivation for getting a task done. Okay, so now we have gone through the 4 laws of behavior change. Now, of course, there are other facets to creating good habits and breaking bad ones, but I have found these rules to be incredibly helpful in changing my life. Just go through them one more time. The first law of behavior change is to make the cues of good habits obvious and the cues for bad ones invisible. The second law of behavior change is to make good habits attractive and bad habits unattractive. The third law of behavior change is to make it easy for good habits and make it hard for bad ones. The fourth law of behavior change is to make it satisfying for good habits and unsatisfying for bad ones. If you can take even one of these rules into account going forward in life, you will be astounded at the amount of change that you can do for the better. Now, that being said, there's only so much I can say in one video. If you want to truly build atomic habits and become what you have always wanted to be, I strongly encourage you to read Atomic Habits yourself and see what valuable lessons you can learn from the book. Remember, it is not that we don't want to change, it's that we don't know how to. All right, guys and gals, that is going to wrap this video up. If you learned anything helpful from watching, be sure to like and subscribe. If you liked the video, check out my other content on the channel, like my video on goal setting, as well as becoming more productive. As always, I hope you have a fantastic day, and bye-bye!